Hey everyone, this is Owen from Research is Broken. Whew. So GW just dropped a bombshell among us. Warcry players, one word, Bladeborne. So Underworlds figures, they're coming towards Warcry, the 8 points, and now we can play them. Um, there's a tome though, the Tome of Champions 2021. It's delayed, but in that tome we can find more on how to play the Bladeborne, what their abilities are, and more. So GW is fortunately giving us a clue on what we can find from the book, and I want to take a look at it and put on my theory hat on what could be inside this book. So first off, the first thing that you'll find is content called Wrath and Ruin. It's probably just a intro blurb. Hopefully there's some short story on it, but if you're here for the meaty rules, you'll probably skip this one because it's only just 2 pages. I doubt there's any rules on it. Now, the first rules that you can find in this tome is the rules update. What you'll find is what's called the Grand Alliance rune mark. So, yeah, big question mark. So, seeing as there's only 2 pages on this article, I think some units will only gain new rune marks or lose some rune marks. So I really doubt that there will be a Grand Alliance rune mark ability where all order they will get a double ability, triple ability for the. I really doubt that's gonna be the case because it's only 2 pages. That's too short for it. So I think some factions or some fighters will gain and lose some rune mark. Now, since I'm a death player, I don't really know what other factions needed some lose or gaining of rune marks. But for me, I'm crossing my fingers and hoping that the Arc Regent will finally get a flying rune mark just like his AOS counterpart because he doesn't have one in Warcraft. That's a big loss. Anyway, so next up we've got update to campaign rules. So 2 pages too as well. So I'm guessing this is a balance on how to gain glory points. They already tried to do this in the 2020 tome because back then they have discovered that if you're a winning warband from the core itself, it'll be very easy for you to overpower the opponents once you start winning because you will have a high glory point advantage over those who have lost in the earlier game. So since this is only 2 pages, sorry, I really doubt there's any new items or minor artifacts that's going to be gained because looking at the 2020 tome, uh, that was a lot of pages. That's not 2 pages. So yeah. Next, we've got point values. So order has 4 pages dedicated to it. Chaos 4 pages. Death only 2 pages, and destruction with a measly 1 page. So what that tells me is that I doubt every fighters will have any points changes to it. I think there will be just some chosen fighters who will have some points change and increase or decrease it. It depends. Now, once again, as a death player, I think I'm hoping that this is the time for the Night Haunts to finally rise up because 80 points for a chain rasp, that is way too expensive for what it can do. 80 points, 8 wounds. I don't care if it only has it if it has 4 toughness and flying, 1 attack and 2 crit for 80 points. That is way too expensive for it. So I hope that unit will stay down. I know some players are hoping that some of the tank in the Skaven will have a points decrease, but I don't know. Maybe we'll find out. So next we've got open play. Open Play has a new game type called Coalition of Death Siege Battles. Now, usually when they label a game type called Coalition of Death, that usually means that it's a game that's not dual. It consists of at least three or more players. So, yeah, I'm excited for that. I love open play because it, especially on the Tome of Champions, because it gives, usually the Tome of Champions will give new ways of playing the Warcry game. In 2019, there was the giant monster mashup, and then in 2020 there was the warlord type of game. So yeah, so siege battle. I'm intrigued what this is. But I'm hoping that this is not just a reprint of the Depths of Solithium rule, because uh, it had a siege feel to it when I was reading that rule. I did like it though, but I don't want to uh, pay for it with the tome again here. So I hope it's a different type of siege scenario. So then there's also something called the Siege to Carnguard. So I'm hoping this is a dual system for siege battles, because as much as I like Coalition of Death, it's very difficult, especially for me and our group. It's very difficult for us to run up four or more players, and I don't like to play Coalition of Death with only three players, because usually that means it's a two against one before I find that the last two would duke it out itself. So yeah, I'm hoping that this one will be different from what I'm thinking. So next we've got the narrative play. So the tome introduces something called the branching quest. So it's very I'm looking at the pages. So it's very meaty for a quest, because usually quest will usually only have like 4 pages each. First, it introduces the scenario. The first 2 pages, I mean, would introduce the scenario, and then the three convergence, and then the last 2 page, which is found on the other area, would introduce to you your spoils of war, what you'd gain for every coalition choices. So what I'm thinking when they say branching quest, I'm thinking that maybe this time around the quest will have, when you succeed, I mean on a coalition convergence, sorry, not coalition, convergence, you can pick what type of scenario it is. Now, my question is, how branching is this branching quest? Does that mean that for every convergence there's only 2 types, or if you pick one type, then there's another branching quest and another on the third coalition? We'll find out how it is, because in fairness, let's say Order has 7 pages for their branching quest, Chaos has 5 pages, Death has 5 pages, and Destruction has 5 pages. So let's just assume the G Dubs is not gonna cheat on us and give us a whole page of just pictures, but there would be actually some words written on these pages. This is a pretty meaty quest, if you ask me. So then we have 5 new fated quests. So I really do like fated quests, because this gives a feel like if you're playing RP and if you don't have time to make your own campaign, it feels like you're running a published adventure. That's what it feels like to me when you're running a fated quest, because there's already a history written in it when you play. So if you want a one-off game with a narrative on it, then fated quest is for you. Now there are 6 narrative campaigns, and looking at the title, I do find the Depths of Silenthium on it. And I really, really hope that this is a different scenario, but it has an unfortunate same name as the one that's given to us for free a year ago. Because damn, I don't. Oh well, if I'm not gonna look at the negatives, let's focus on what we gain. So, um, I'm looking at the scenarios on the narrative campaigns. So what we have is four branching campaigns, five fated quests, and six narrative campaigns for a total of 15 narrative scenario. Now this might look a lot, but if you look at 2020, it actually has the same number of narrative scenarios, and it had Soroth Core campaign. Man, Soroth Core was really amazing. The intro story to it was a little bit of a horror. What I want in a filler when you get a GW book, I prefer at least 4 pages worth of short story rather than just pictures. So yeah, there's no Soroth Core like campaign in 2021. So yeah, that's the hard truth. Next, we've got match play. It's 10 pages all in all. So I'm going to assume that there will be 6 new match play types. And I'm interested on what these new types are because I actually did like the 2020 Tome of Champions match play because it's more cerebral. You don't just rely on hordes to win the game. You really have to be very tactical on it. And yeah, I don't want a game where I already know who will win based on how many hordes there are. I want I want this game to not just be running around, but actually a, a battle type of game. So yeah, I'm hoping there will be more of that here in the match play games. Um, Another thing I noticed is that there's a new tournament play type called Fel Nyroth tournament. So here's my hope because here's what I noticed. I do like the tournament rules in Warcry because it's very fast. You play 3 games and then you gain points, and then on round one, uh, whoever is the highest among your group and the second highest must duke it out while the rest are random. So on the next round, on round two, so those are the first placer and the second placer will fight on round two, and then on round three, um, the first placer and second placer on round two will fight again. So there's a chance for other players to catch up. So that's what I like about Warcry because it's a fast game. So the tournament is also fast. But I do see a hole in the tournament structuring, namely that what if the players are not even numbered? What if it's odd? So since there's only 3 matches in the tournament, what happens to the other guy who doesn't have a chance to play? He would just get a bye. I think it's a bit unfair, especially if it's the last round you don't get to play. Um, so yeah, I hope the Fel Nyroth tournament has an answer to a tournament where there are odd number of players. We now go to the section that is the most the most of you have the reason that most of you have bought this book, which is the appendix. So first, we in the appendix there is 4 articles that was already given to us for free some months ago, which are the Lumineth Realm Lords, the Cruel Boys, the Soul Blight, and the new Stormcast. So it's found in this book. GW is really fond of stuffing the free stuff back into this book, which we already we're gonna buy. So anyway, yeah, that's my complaint. I'm starting to notice a theme here. So anyway, we do get the Bladeborne. So what is the Bladeborne? So Bladeborne are the warbands found on the Underworlds game, and uh, that's that's the title that's given to them in the book. Now, previously, if you don't know the history, GW actually released a small game called Bladeborne, and what was very interesting for us Warcry players was that it had the same look, the same font as Warcry, except a light type of game. The playmat is still the same from the Underworlds, and the two warbands found were from the Underworlds. And what surprised us was later when you look at there was a release of four other rules for from four different Chaos warbands, and then they released rules that allowed you to play the Bladeborne Chaos warbands into Warcry itself. Now, they in the Tome of Champions, it allowed you to play most of the Underworld's warband. Uh, from what I understand, you have to get the leader of that Underworld warband so that you can get their subordinates to join your uh, warband. Now, what's interesting though is that you can pick the hero, no, the leader as a Bladeborne warband, so you can fill it up with its warband and then get another Bladeborne warband with the same Grand Alliance, of course, as the leader to join in. So you can potentially um, have two warbands from the Underworlds to ally together to form into one powerful warband for your Warcry. What I do notice though from what's released, which is the Crab and Prince Duval, is that these named characters have really interesting power stats. And another thing I've noticed is that um, you can actually play them in narrative, uh, but they have the name condition in AOS where you can't put any additional stuff to these characters, to these fighters, I mean. So if you add them into your narrative warband, then you can't give them any artifact. You can't also give them any command traits. They don't even gain at the stin level. So that's the trade-off for getting the Bladeborne. Oh, and I did notice that Prince Duvali has no flying rune mark. Wink, wink. so, so that's the downside of Prince Duvali. But he has 6 crit, 2/6 for attacks. But it's pretty slow with 5 movement. I'm not sure. 205. I'm not sure, but I am willing to try him out in my game because I already painted him. Next thing I did notice is that not all warbands in Underworld will have a Warcry stat. Notably absent are the Iron Souls, Condemners, and Lady Harrow's Mournflight. So my thinking is that because these models already have an AOS counterpart, so that means they already have a Warcry stat for them. So there's already no need for them to get special Bladeborne stat. So what this probably means is that for those who will be using the Thorns of the Briar Queen, only the Briar Queen, Warclub the Cruel, and the Everhang will have their own Bladeborne stat, because the rest of that warband is comprised mostly of Chain Rasp. So yeah, that's the book. I did notice something interesting though from the article, is that there is a White Dwarf magazine coming, which has the Poor Beasts of Chaos. Does this Could this mean that they will have no battle tomes in the US? I don't know. Uh, I do hope that the Beast of Chaos battle tome will retain their uh, the god hosts formation, because I did like them. Anyway, back to Warcry. So if you do notice at the left side of the cover, there is the Warcry rules, and it says Warcry rules for battles in Thondia. Is this a fated type quest, or is this a Soroth core type of campaign? I'm not sure, but I am willing to find out what Warcry rules they're adding in this White Dwarf issue. So yeah, that's it. I hope I've kept you up to speed and interested you more on the Tome of Champions. I hope I've given you a light more on what's upcoming. So if you like this video and you want more of these types of videos, click like, subscribe, and write some comments down below. This is Owen. Bye.